That is a wrap on the 2025 NFL Draft, where the Cincinnati Bengals added 6 new rookies to the roster, and in this video, I'll explain how the draft got better and better for the Bengals as the rounds went on. Hi again, Bengals fans. John Sheeran of A to Z Sports Cincinnati here, and I'll be honest with you guys. I think the draft started pretty shaky for the Bengals. I know I may be in the minority here when it comes to Shemar Stewart, but I still believe that there's just as much risk with him as there is promise, especially when you consider the fact that he's a top 20 pick and all the expectations that come with that. But then following that pick in rounds 2 and 3, the Bengals identified dire needs on their roster, and they identified 2 guys that can fill those needs, and while doing so, they also ignored the value part of the equation. Because I think that both linebacker Demetrius Knight and guard Dylan Fairchild are quality players. I think that they are ready to compete day one and potentially start for the Bengals. But it's no secret that nobody expected Knight to go off the board in the middle of the second round, and it was very clear that the Bengals just wanted to draft a linebacker that they felt could start in day one. And then 32 picks later, the Bengals pretty much did the same thing at guard with Fairchild, who was expected to be a 4th round pick. The vast majority of draft picks that haven't worked out for the Bengals looked exactly like this. When it feels like the team reached at least a round early to draft a player, typically it ends up biting them in the butt. And obviously understand that Knight and Fairchild were clear targets for the Bengals. They wanted these guys on their team, but they went out of their way in order to get them. And in doing so, the opportunity cost of those decisions were adding even better players in maybe other positions. And this is where the age-old adage comes from. Don't draft for immediate need, because if you do, you risk passing on just better players who can make your team better tomorrow instead of today. And that's why picking Knight, who was a consensus 3rd round player in the 2nd round, really stands out to me, because what if they just pivoted to a player with a true 2nd round grade? Could they have still landed Knight in the 3rd? Could they have landed Fairchild in the 4th? Would their team be better right now? Odds point to yes. But it didn't happen like that. The Bengals reached for needs on day 2. And that's fine, because they let the board come to them on day 3. I think Barrett Carter in the 4th round was a really solid pick. I think that matched up with where he was likely to be drafted. And even if they already drafted a linebacker in Demetrius Knight, it adds depth to a room that didn't really have a lot of depth last year. Carter immediately becomes a quality backup Mike linebacker to Logan Wilson, who's dealt with some injuries in recent years, and you don't know how his durability is going to be as he gets older and older. Even when you drafted Knight in the 2nd round, I think both of them can see the field in different situations. And Carter has a lot of special teams abilities as well, so they're going to get value there too. Then in the 5th round, again, another really good value pick in Miami offensive lineman Jalen Rivers. The Bengals' need for a backup swing tackle to develop behind Orlando Brown Jr. and Amarius Mims, I think, really flew under the radar as one of their more glaring roster holes, and I think Rivers can fill that hole immediately. But Rivers is also extremely versatile. He played both left tackle and left guard in the same games last year. Like, that's extremely rare. And then finally, in the 6th round, they found running back Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech, who was expected to be drafted there, and that's typically when you should draft backup running backs anyways. But another guy who just really looks the part on tape. He led all running backs in 2023 and forced missed tackles according to Pro Football Focus. Plus, he's really experienced in both pass protection and running out of the shotgun, so he's an automatic scheme fit for this offense. I think all 3 of those picks do a really good job of salvaging the overall quality of this draft class for Cincinnati. And honestly, looking back at these last 3 drafts going back to 2023, they've done a really good job of identifying useful players on day 3 of the draft. You're talking about the likes of Chase Brown, Andre Yosevich, Eric All once he's back and healthy, Matt Lee, and then you add Carter, Rivers, and Brooks to that group. That's pretty solid. So do I think the Bengals got better in multiple areas of the roster? Yes. Do I think their process in terms of getting there is also a little bit shaky? Also yes. But as always, I want to hear what you guys have to say. What do you think about the Bengals 2025 draft class? Were there picks that you loved? Were there picks that you hated? Let me know down in the comments below.